Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lucky Duck Games stream. I am Bree Goldman, and I'm here tonight with Carly Reinhardt from Lucky Duck
Hello.
Games. Hi. So we are here tonight to talk about a bunch of different things, but the main thing I will let Carly introduce is go ahead.
So today we are going to be talking about the new community editor for Destinies, which is basically software that we're implementing in the Steam app that will allow folks to make their own Destiny scenarios, and kind of that along with the tools and support that we will be giving for that process, and to support like that creator community that we will be like fostering.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, Panda Angel. Thank you for joining us. And we are going to be talking about that. And so Carly is actually new to the team. I mean, I'm relatively new to the team also. I've been here almost 5 months now. Carly has just recently joined us as the community manager, specifically focused on that product. So we're going to talk about her role and the product in general. But first, we just wanted to talk about a couple of other things that have been going on in the Lucky Duck world. Hi, Board at Home. Hi, Douglas Gooding. Happy to see you all here. Thank you for joining us. Hi, guys. Thank you, Panda Angel. We're thrilled to have you here. So yeah, things that are going on in the Lucky Duck world. We've got a lot of stuff ongoing and upcoming. So the biggest thing that we have upcoming is our April 12th Kickstarter launch for the Dark Quarter. Got this right here. And this is our Kickstarter game that we're making in collaboration with Van Ryder Games. And Gary Klein wants to know where's Az. Az is
I hope
asleep.
asleep. Yeah.
Right?
It
It's
is
quite
8 p.m.
late.
for me, and he's 5 hours ahead. Let's be nice to Az.
Right?
Oh.
So yes, the Dark Quarter is our upcoming Kickstarter. It is it's set in a dark New Orleans, and it is a cooperative game of exploration and investigation. It uses a system similar to Destiny. So if you're familiar with the skill check system and the dice that you use in Destinies, you'll be familiar with, but it's a little different. But there's definitely some exciting new things to look forward to there, especially campaign opportunities to like level up your skills and carry over what you've learned and learn new abilities between scenarios. Hi, Benita. So happy to see you. Bree. Gary, I hope that we can live up to your expectations. I know nothing is quite the same as having Az and his energy in the stream, but we will do our best to live up to your
We'll plan another stream with him and make it a more
absolutely
hospitable time for
without
his appearance.
question. And Carly, Benita says hi.
Hi, Benita. It's nice. I was about to say nice to see you again, but it is virtually so.
Thank you for popping in. Hi, Sadakana. Thanks for joining us. So other thing, before I move on from the Dark Quarter, so we do have a follow page. If you're interested in the Kickstarter, you can go to luckyduckgames.com/the Dark Quarter, and it will redirect you to our campaign page where you can follow us. And that goes live on April 12th. Hey, Game Jedi, nice to see you. Thanks for coming to join us. And thanks, Gary Klein. Yeah, we're really excited. This collaboration with Van Ryder has just added a lot to the Destiny system, and there's just a lot of cool stuff to come. And so the prototypes have gone out to reviewers. You may have already started to see pictures that are showing up online, and people will start to be posting their video reviews soon. So you'll be able to get a feeling for that first scenario, and then we're just a couple of weeks away from the launch now. So the next thing that I've got to share with you guys is to talk a little bit about X-trays. And some of you are familiar with these already. It might sound like a broken record because I know I've been hyping these up on a lot of other people's streams. We've got them in orange, black, and white, and they come in boxes of 6. You get 3 that are split in half and 3 that are not, and you also get 6 lids for $14.99. You can get these at your local game store. So these are made in conjunction with game trays, which you may or may not actually be able to see on there.
You're super, super resilient.
Aren't they great? What I was doing, I can't really do this here, but I was doing at Gamma was actually pounding on them on the table, and I realized that I did this example for Carly where I like put a bunch of components in the box and I threw them over my shoulder and
Hurled
I
them
left
across the room
and
properly.
I left it on the floor over there, so now I can't do it for you guys.
Yeah, so you guys don't get the fantastic example because I got the fantastic example.
But the great thing about it is when you have these split boxes, so first of all, these lids just like they snap on. You get this super satisfying snap, and then they don't come off unless you want them to. So you get like they're very sturdy. And what I was trying to demonstrate with the throwing across the room was that the components on separate sides do not mix together, even when you like shake them like that or throw them across the room, and the lid doesn't come off until you want them to. Yeah, Panda Angel was there. She saw me just like knocking them off the table like a cat. She's like, what was that? That wasn't on purpose, was it? I just like knocked it off into the middle of a like crowded walkway. Sean. Yeah, so Sean was poor Sean was like, why are you throwing stuff? He's like trying to man the booth along with me, and he's like, why are you throwing things near my retailers? Stop.
It's the new Gamma dexterity game, is just avoiding the hurling
avoid the things that Bree is throwing at the nearby retailers.
Hey,
Oh, hi Jamie, thanks for joining us. Yes, so black, white, and orange, you get 3 split in half and 3 that are not with the lids, $14.99. And if you can't find them at your local retail store, just let them know that they can order them from their distributor, and they should be able to pick those up for you. Hi, Marcin. Hi, Tuan. So nice to see you both. Thank you, Board at Home. We're excited to make sure you've got some of those too. Joe, thank you for popping in here. We're super happy to see you. And I know you and Panda Angel and Benito were playing Crime Zone just maybe within the last hour or so. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed that. It was fun to watch you play. I jumped into the stream just as they were starting to they figured out some really key piece of information at the moment that I jumped in. So they were all really intense. It was super exciting to watch them figure it out. Thanks, Joe. It's exciting to be live on stream and to have Carly here. So the other things that I was showing, I have kind of off to the side here at Gamma are our upcoming releases towards the end of Q2 and one that will probably push into Q3. Joe says they had a lot of fun at it, but they forgot about one thing. Does that mean you're going to have to play it again? It was your first Crime Zoom and it was really fun. Are you going to play the second one then, Panda Angel? Speaking of Crime Zoom, what we have upcoming is Pocket Detective. And Pocket Detective actually bears some similarity to Crime Zoom in that it's each case is a deck of cards. I'm making a bunch of noise over here. But within this kind of larger box, you get 3 cases. So once you open the box, you've got a deck like this with instructions that kind of gives you some background, and then it will tell you, here's how to split up this deck into multiple other decks with instructions to follow so you can So each deck might be a building to explore, for example, within a college campus. And then once you've done that setup, you can decide where you want to go first, what you want to see. And then as you explore each place, you'll get more information, and that might send you somewhere else. So those are the three. Oh, and I guess I can show you inside of the box. You've got 3 cases for Pocket Detective. So that's the first of our upcoming releases. The second one, very exciting. We got Sherlock Case Connection, also coming out later in Q2. I am not doing a good job of showing this on screen.
No, it looks good. You're good.
There we go. I'm like,
It
I
is
can't
a
see.
bold box.
There,
and also,
there it
David,
is.
thank you for being here at 2 a.m. and we're excited to show you the community editor shortly too.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Yeah, we will be getting to that very shortly. And hi, David Lockwood. Hello, fellow duck. Rolling with Rock. Happy to see you here. So, yeah, Sherlock is upcoming as well. It is a competitive puzzle solving game.
I'm so excited for this one.
Yeah,
I'm a
I'm
big
excited to.
Sherlock human.
I will show this in much greater detail in an upcoming stream. But in the meantime, I can at least tease the back of the box where you can get a feeling for the way that it works. You visit locations, you gather threads and proof tokens from those locations, and then you use them to connect back to your initial case. Once you have connected all of the symbols on the edges of your case to a thread using your proof tokens, you get to score that case. You get bonuses for the cards that are directly connected to it. And then you get a new case and you start solving that one. And the first person to get 9 points is the winner. Hey, Colin, thank you for joining us. And the last one, potentially Q2, possibly a little later, depending on international logistics and shipping, is It's a Wonderful Kingdom. So this is the 1 to 2 player follow-up to It's a Wonderful World, which is, and if you're familiar with that one, if you're not familiar with that one already, it's a drafting and resource management game where you're building cards using the resources that you gather, and as you build them, they add to your ability to gather resources. So you kind of got this engine building effect throughout the game. In It's a Wonderful Kingdom, instead of the draft that you've got in It's a Wonderful World, you are taking turns with using an I cut you choose mechanism. So you have a hand of cards. You are choosing 2 of them and either placing them together or splitting them up, and then your opponent has to choose one side or the other that you have set up to take into their drafted cards for that round. And normally those cards all go face up, but you can use your trap tokens to put a card face down, which might be a bad card for them, or it might be a good card for you that you don't want them to take on that round so that you can take it on the next round. So there's a lot of strategy to it. It's a lot of fun. You can really kind of get into people's heads with it. And I've only got enough chance to play it once, and I'm really excited to get a chance to play it again. So I'm just going to put these back over here and get into the most exciting part of the night, our interview with Carley. So we've already done a little bit of an introduction, but if you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself, Carley, and your role specifically here with Lucky Duck, that's kind of where I'd like to get things started.
Absolutely. So, hi, I'm Carley Reinhard, and I have just recently joined the Lucky Duck team. I'm the online community coordinator, and that could mean a lot of different things, but really what right now my baby has been the Destinies Community Editor, which is basically a software that we've developed and is integrated with Steam that will give folks the access to basically develop their own Destiny scenarios. Not only that they can play, but also that can be implemented to the app for everybody to play.
Awesome.
Thank you, Captain.
And we're just so excited to have you on the team and to be working on getting this made and live for everybody to use.
Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled for it. I mean, you have Destinies in the background. I have Destinies here, which has just been like my project for since I've started for about a month now. And so
Joe, it's like you know what's coming.
yeah. So is there a link for the editor yet? We are working on getting that integrated into Steam. Roughly within the next week, we will have it available to the Destinies backers. We did promise an early release for backers for the community editor. So we're going to be doing a soft release. We'll let them play with it. We'll help them through that, as well as, but for everybody, it should be accessible in early to mid-April. And so we should have that out for everybody as well. But I'm going to also show you more of it tonight because I have access to the editor, and I will happily show you some of the features within it and how to use it. But the editor itself is very much the technical side of implementing your scenario. There's a whole scenario you have to build beforehand. So I've also been working on developing guides and tools to kind of help you get your ideas ready for the editor. The reason being that some people will just be excited to play with the editor, but a lot of people are going to come in with a story that needs fleshing out before it can properly be put into the editor.
So why don't you tell us a little more about that? Because that is something that you and I talked a little bit about, which is the preparation that you kind of need to have in place before you even dive into the editor, in terms of actually, if you're really planning to, like, instead of just playing around with the editor, if you're really planning to implement a full scenario, that you really kind of need to have something ready to go before you dive in head first.
Yeah. So what I've created, and it's nothing fancy. It's in an Excel sheet that people can kind of go through as a form to just kind of almost like a brainstorming document to get yourself ready to do so. It walks you through character development, and in Destinies, every player has basically I will pause for a second to say thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
watching Me
Rob.
and Blood on the Clock Tower. We just had an episode release this past weekend.
That's awesome. And I don't know if you know this, but the last stream that I did was actually with Rolling with Rock.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we
So
did
you'll just
that.
come back and we'll
We
play Blood on the
exchanged,
Clock Tower, and I won't
right?
lie to you at all.
She's definitely not lying now, for sure.
I always say I lied to at least the first person I talked to as a rule, but good or bad. But anyway, for Destiny's Editor, we have a whole like story form builder that guides you through all the different process of fleshing out the character. There are different destiny paths that they'll go down, as well as the quests necessary. Because to enjoy Destinies means that you know the general arc of the story. You know that each character has two different avenues to succeed in their goals, but actually creating enough elements on the map that people have access to their goals and are kind of recommended numbers of different things. We basically make that, we handhold you through that process. And so I've created that so that you can bring your story to life. And then I have a document that's literally taking that story builder and how do you put it into the editor. So we'll have all of that ready for everybody.
That's awesome. So when you think about like what the Destinies Community Editor is and like who it's for, who do you think of as the core audience for the editor? Who is the most?
I would say just story. I mean, this is very broad, but I would just say storytellers. I think that at the end, Destinies is a RPG kind of tabletop digital hybrid. And what the editor lets you do is take your story and put it into the editor for everyone to enjoy. It makes the technical aspect of Destinies really accessible. Everyone sits at home with the same minis and items and kind of like this infinite room and expandability, and just needing that core shaken up with a different scenario. And so it's just the editor will give folks with ideas for new avenues that this can go, just an outlet to do so. And what's really cool to me is it doesn't necessarily even have to be kind of echoing the same feeling of other Destiny scenarios. It could be more serious, it could be way more playful, it could be even a little silly. Like you get to write the narrative for your characters. So we might be using the same mini, but how your story feels, how your adventure feels can be very different. So it leaves a lot of community growth for that storytelling and potential. That was a long answer to your question.
No, not at all.
Anyone, and it really, truly, with storytelling and energy for that.
Is there some particular kind of content or theme that you're especially excited to see?
I'm not sure. We don't have anything to formally announce yet, but we will also be working hopefully with an author to bring more like community driven content through that lens of things, to both create content to showcase the process itself. So I'll work with that author to like flesh out a story in front of people and they can see kind of how we do it. But what exactly that will look like is still in the works. But I'm really just excited to see where the community takes it.
Me too. I think there's a lot of creativity out there, and I just really kind of can't wait to see what people decide to do with it.
Me too.
And I'm sure that even if we listed our top 10 favorite genres or things that we're most excited to see people do with it, that by the time or even shortly after we've launched it, there will be 10 things that I'm excited about that I would never have thought of today.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to be surprised more so than anything.
Me too.
I will we will have community support to help people through the process of making their scenarios. So we will have guides, but we will also be accessible to help make it happen.
And that reminds me, actually, that we do have a Discord.
We do have a Discord. That is a big part of it.
Yes.
There is a Lucky Duck Discord, and we should throw a link into.
I will get that.
Are you going to do that?
Yes,
okay.
I will.
We have a Lucky Duck Discord, which you guys should be a part of. And if you choose your role, you can basically list yourself as a creator and get access to our creator hub, which will just kind of be a place that community creators can go to talk to each other, as well as to us to seek support as you're developing your scenario, and also just to hype you, because I love that. And if you're excited about this, I'm excited to have you. I think I saw a comment about co-op scenarios.
Yes.
I don't think at this time we have a plan to make it so it's co-op integrated at the moment with the community editor. I can see if that is a potential for the future, but not from the get-go. There will be options to make solo modes as well, though.
There you go.
Which is a little different of a process, but it can be easily implemented at the end.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Discord's going to be a big hub for that. We will also have a creator's email that you can always reach out to help you make your ideas come to life.
Brady, we are thrilled to have you creating content for any of our platforms.
I'll just figure out a way to make it. I would love to support that creation if able. We will see what we can do. It's good to know that there's interest there. That's honestly part of what I'm interested in seeing, is where people want to take this and what ideas they have with it too.
Absolutely.
I'm here for the energy for it. I'll see if I can make it happen.
Me too, very much so. So what are some of the key features that you would like people to know about?
For the editor itself, or the guides themselves?
Either. Or do you want to talk a little bit about the guides, I guess, before we dive into the editor?
Yeah. I guess I can. Oh, someone was asking for an example of the scenario in the game box and an alternate story as a storyteller.
So yeah,
I don't know Destinies. Should I speak a little bit more to Destinies then first?
Sure. So yeah, the question was, can you maybe give an example of a scenario in the game box and an alternate story a storyteller could create out of the components in the box? I don't know Destinies. And that's, thank you, Joe. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Not everybody. Oops, that was not what I meant to do.
So I'm going to pull from my game box here just to see what I can showcase. But essentially in the game box, oh man. I have been using this to pour through all of the items in the entire thing to make an item guide, which we can talk about later. So it's a little messy at the moment. But essentially, and I'll show you some examples, in the Destinies box, the first thing that you'll really get when you're playing a game of Destinies is a card. And this will be your character role. So here we have the Huntsman, which is from the base game in the intro box. And there's other roles that each player can take on. And they will all have kind of overlapping destinies. Essentially, they want something. The noble in the first one wants to not basically be disgraced and wants to kind of reclaim status. And you basically are given two paths that you can take towards this aim. and they're all on the back. These are private from the other people you're playing against, but they're basically two different ways you can achieve your kind of ultimate fulfillment of your goal. And throughout Destinies, you basically have different interactions to advance both of those quests. You can kind of try to steer down one path, but you may actually find it's easier to go down another as you kind of progress and have interactions. Your cards will kind of guide you. One of them could be like recruit some people to help you out. And you need to recruit 3 people. So you're kind of having interactions in the town, seeing who you might be able to help to get to your side, different sorts of things as you explore in kind of an RPG style fashion. You'll have skills that develop along the way. That's kind of the arc of Destinies. But it's a competitive game. People were asking about the co-op element because only one person can fulfill their destiny. When they do, everyone else's stories will resolve, but kind of in a suboptimal way. So the pieces in the box that you can utilize to make this happen are not these cards. You'll actually make your own cards for the folks who are playing your scenario. But all of the components in the box are based on, like, we have map tiles that will be pulled out to build out your scenario. So you use the same map tiles, but it probably has different points of interaction on them. So we have like kind of a general point of interaction marker, and you can turn that into whatever you'd like it to be. The app kind of tells everybody what they're placing on the board at any given time and kind of what it represents and fleshes out the narrative. So all of these components aren't given really story until you give them story. There's also like minis that can represent different characters and do in different Destiny scenarios. So instead, you can just say all of these things represent different things. They can have different dialogues and interactions, and skills can build up in different ways. I hope that answered your question a little bit about what Destinies is all about and how it can be reutilized. There's also just an abundance of items. I can tell you all about them. I just made a whole guide. And so those can also be utilized in different ways. And some give you like boosts during skill checks. Some are like ongoing abilities, and they can be traded for or found or given to you in cool ways. And so you get to really flesh out this story and different paths for characters, and they get to explore them and try to win.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
Joe and anyone else in chat who hasn't played Destinies, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a background on and the key things in my mind, and Carly already touched on a lot of this, is it's an app supported competitive RPG like experience. So you are playing with map tiles on the table with minis that you're moving around. The app is your GM, but you are competing with the other players to be the one to fulfill your destiny. So that's the one thing that makes it very different from other RPGs, is they're almost never competitive. So we've got another question here from Joe. What's the recommended process for making our own cards, pen and index cards, or printed art?
that is a great question and kind of leads right into the editor and what we were making. So actually, what I've crafted in the story builder is actually a full example of kind of what you need for each of those cards, and then we've created a guide in terms of how you implement that into the editor. Would it be helpful to show just a little bit of the story builder?
Sure.
Hold
And
on one.
I think Joe may be asking more about, instead of content on those cards, actually
Yeah.
designing the physical cards.
Oh, for
So
sure. Oh, I
are we
see.
providing
Yes,
frameworks or templates for people to create physical cards that people could maybe print and
for
play?
sure. So this is the editor that Bree has up right now, and actually, when we go through, you actually, once you program in the editor correctly and set up each of your characters, so here you'll be able to select different players and basically flesh out their destiny cards. You'll actually be able to um, view these destiny cards. You can save them and view them here. Let me see if I can pull it up for you. Let me do. This is the setup for the player board. But you'll actually be able to export your player cards in and make them look exactly like we have them in person. And when people play your scenarios, they'll actually be able to print out your full cards, like with QR codes and all. Because another big element of Destinies, if you haven't played with it before, is there's a QR code. This exists on your Destiny cards. It exists on item cards, and this interacts with the app too. So if you're doing a strength test, for instance, you might be able, for a fight, if you have a proper weapon, you would be able to maybe utilize that instead of using your hands and have a better chance at success, or a chance at all. You might not know, but you'll scrappy and try. And your destiny card as well. If you're struggling along on your adventure, people get to scan it and you can ask people about town around your destiny. So if you're trying to recruit folks, you can be like, hey, do you know anything about recruiting folks? And they'll be like, oh, like I heard someone down by the shore who might be looking for some help, maybe talk to them. So it's actually integrated within the app to kind of help in that way. So the editor that we've constructed and that you'll have access to will actually completely create all of these tools for you and for anybody who's using them in the app.
And it's worth mentioning for somebody who's coming into this as a starting point for Destinies that although we welcome everyone who wants to use this as a storytelling tool, this is not a requirement for playing Destinies. You can play Destinies right out of the box without ever touching the community editor.
Oh, absolutely.
Not that no, this is not
Yeah.
in any way a criticism, but just
Yeah, no.
something that you and I didn't really even talk about in preparing for this because we were very focused on talking about the community editor and what it adds to Destinies. But Joe's questions have really led me to think about we need some context here for
Yeah.
anyone who hasn't played Destinies. You can play it right out of the box. You don't need to touch an editor. You just need a phone or a tablet that can run, or Steam actually can also run
Mhm.
the app. And then the QR codes you just scan with your camera to interact with the app, and it will take you through everything you need to know to play the game. And you'll never need to interact with this at all. But once you've played Destinies, if you would like to be able to use that platform to tell your own stories, Carly is
Yes.
making that possible through the
Yeah.
community
And
editor with the
yes.
help of our amazing dev team
Yeah, so this
in
isn't a
Poland.
new game that we're like, "Hey, make content for it." There is content that exists. We have our own scenarios that we've, created and crafted and that come with the base game, and then with the expansions as well, adding new scenarios and content. This is just a way in which we can engage with the community and allow them to bring their ideas to life and support them through the process. Like I said, they're not alone. We want to really drive a creator community, and
And in
not
fact,
just
if
have
you
this be a solo experience, unless that's something you want them. That's fine too.
exactly.
But
And there's lots of people who play Destiny solo and
yes,
get great deal of enjoyment out of it.
absolutely.
And that's something that you mentioned that you'll be able to do eventually with the
Yeah.
editor also is create
Yep.
solo content.
I will have the solo implementation guide. So even if you haven't played solo before, whereas I'm less of a solo gamer myself. So when I was hopping into the editor, I was at a loss in terms of what solo needed, but now I know and I will have it written up for you guys. So that way all of the scenarios could potentially be solo accessible, which will be a very cool thing.
And if you're not familiar with uh well, if you are or are not familiar with other Lucky Duck games, this is not something that we're new to. We actually, in in terms of app assisted games, Lucky Duck Games was really like put on the map by Chronicles of Crime, and we also have a community editor for Chronicles of Crime where you can make your own cases for Chronicles of Crime. So there's a ton of content for Chronicles of Crime. There are expansions. There are 3 standalone games, 1400, 1900, 2400 in the Millennium series, that all use the Chronicles of Crime interface. And if you also want to make your own content, there is a community editor on top of all of that.
Yeah. I wanted to answer Gary's question if
Oh,
possible. Gary
absolutely.
had asked about features such as dungeons from Sea of Sand in a scenario with base components. Absolutely. So, one of the big things the implementation guide I've crafted does is just walk you through how to basically speak the language of the editor. A lot of those interactions and all of those are not grounded in the components themselves. It's just what it's basically the effects of what you program into the editor. And so I can show you how easily to do so with just base components for sure.
So I think he was also asking whether you would be able to mix expansion components with base
Oh,
game components.
absolutely, that as well. So I know we will be trying to promote some community content that includes just-based components for accessibility for everybody, and so that's something you have to keep in mind when you want everyone to play your scenario, but you absolutely will be able to mix when you're looking at all the tiles in this system and all of those things and also, like, graphics and other things, you can mix any number of expansions, but when it comes to the pieces like, the miniatures as well as the map tiles, that's where you wanna be a little more mindful because someone's going to be told to pull a mini out of their box, and if it's not in their box, they can't play that scenario as well. But in terms of the elements of gameplay or the types of interactions you can have, there I can walk you through making almost any other kind of interaction you'd like, regardless of the components. It's just the components will limit what people are able to do. I can't replicate an item from an expansion for the base game for folks, especially if they need it to have it to scan.
You can't create physical content
No,
from nothing?
no, and
That's not
unfortunately
in your skill set?
and
That was in
unfortunately
the job description,
yeah,
Carly.
that was it. Magic. Just for you, Gary, just for you. Email me after this. No. But
Hi,
yeah, so
panic.
yes. So that is the one limitation is the physical side.
Yes, absolutely, and that also leads into Douglas Gooding's question about whether, we would ever make a digital edition since it is app-driven already. The impression that I've gotten, Douglas, is that very unlikely that we would go in that direction. If anything, it's the fact that it is app-driven that would probably mean that we don't go in that direction, because it really kind of is the interaction between the app and the physical game that gives it such personality and such life.
Yeah, we really I mean, I personally very much enjoy the physicality of being able to, like, unfold the adventure in front of me. The app provides the narrative background, and I do believe that is the intention to stick that way. Also, someone asked about the German version being compatible. So
Yep.
all of the scenarios that are community-based can be uploaded to the app. Um, and they when you upload to the app, we will actually have a dashboard on our website that you guys can't see yet, but it will be upcoming soon, in which you can essentially you will export your file from Steam and upload it to our website. And from there, you can set it as private to do some private testing for yourself, maybe get a sense of whether the game flow is the way you want it, if you want to tweak any character stats. And then you can upload it again and upload it publicly, and it's immediately available to the app for use. So all of these scenarios will be compatible with the German app, but some of them might not be in German. We're not translating these scenarios, but they will be compatible. And as to when they will be available, immediately when people set them to public, which is wonderful, but is also something we are cognizant of in terms of needing support, and we have those systems in place too.
Are we Will they be able to also create content or scenarios in German if they so desired?
Yep. Yeah. And we're working on getting our hope is eventually to get like I know we'll have some of our landing pages translated in other languages as well. And I think the hope is to get the editor itself translated at some point into at least multiple different languages. I'm not sure the extent to which ones. At this point in time, we will have it released in English. But I believe the hope is that is not the case in the future.
And the guides also, do you think?
The guides as well. Again, yeah, that will take a much longer time,
Yes,
but it is no small translation task. But it is
absolutely.
the hope to get it
But if
done.
anyone can do it, it's Lucky Duck.
Yeah.
We are skilled in localization
Yes.
without question. Uh,
And
Hi,
then
Legends. I cross paths with Legends DM in almost every board game related Twitch stream, so very happy to see you here. And yes, Rock definitely wants the rock in Destinies. I was very fortunate to be on stream or in the chat with Rock when he discovered that there's a rock card in the game. I think it's in the in Sea of Sand expansion, and he just about lost his mind. And it was just a like
so now you can
goosebump
create
inducing moment.
a
It was wonderful.
whole destiny path based on that rock.
Yes,
Do it.
you gotta tell your story, rolling with Rock.
Yeah.
Also, Joe would like to request some new functionality. Computer, create new card. Draw a steampunk robot cavalier riding a dinosaur.
I mean, I love your energy, but on a somewhat related note, you will not be able to import your own graphics into the editor for somewhat obvious reasons. So you will be limited to a lot of the components and graphics that we provide, but I love that. So yes.
Yes, unfortunately, the minis that were provided with the game do not
Yeah.
include a steampunk robot
Yeah.
cavalier riding a dinosaur yet.
Yes.
However, now that this idea has been planted in our minds,
Yeah.
is anyone from the dev team in chat right now?
Yeah, make it
Because
happen. Throw me one random steampunk robot cavalier riding a dinosaur. Not even it doesn't have to be a mini because we can't
right.
necessarily make that happen, but we can do like a character graphic that can just be someone's playable character.
I would love that.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
I would love that. Yes, Joe Legends is omnipresent. He has the advantage of being in Hawaii, so he's so far ahead of like, earlier than all of us in
Okay. So he's
time,
got
like,
the energy for
right? Like, it's probably still light out. It's kinda still light out where I am. It's only 5:45 here. I'm on Pacific time. It's definitely still light out in Hawaii. Douglas says, "Sounds like a whole steampunk dinosaur expansion is needed." Well,
I'll get on it.
we'll put that on the list. Suggested in the Discord?
I will say I might not be able to give you the mini and I might not be able to give you the graphic, but there is nothing stopping you from making like we have the generic point of interest markers to mark
Yeah,
anything on the map that you can interact with. It could be a person, it could be a place, and you can craft a whole I mean, it could be a whole steampunk dinosaur amusement park and like you
I
can write
love
the
it.
dialects for it. It is doable. I just might not have the exceptional minis that I wish existed for it at
I
this
love
time.
it. Hi, Czar. So I met just Czar at Dice Tower West, although it turns out that we're essentially neighbors. He also lives in Las Vegas. So we originally met also in some random board game Twitch chat. So this is thank you for being here, Czar. We're happy to have you. It might take me 5 years, but I will make Rolling to the Rock a
It won't.
scenario.
If you have thoughts, I can help you make it happen. That's
That's
like
what we're here for. That's
that's
what
my
Carly's
job,
here for.
quite
Yes.
literally now. So,
Rock, I know you're already in our Discord. Just jump in there, take on that creator role, go into the choose your roles
mhm.
official stuff category, choose the creator role and jump into that create because you can assign the creator role to yourself. So we basically just set up the creator chat to only be available if you have the creator role, just because we want you to have some kind of like active choice in being involved in that community. But you can assign it to yourself. And once you've assigned it to yourself, you can just get involved. You can start asking questions, and we'll be in there. Carly will be in there to get involved with you and to answer your questions and keep things on track so that people are engaged and feeling comfortable and confident with making
Yeah.
content in the scenario editor.
Yep, you'll have a community to pull from, but at the end of the day, if you want private help, even if it's, uh, nauseatingly long conversations with me to just even figure out how to make something happen for you, that's literally what I'm here for, and I'm thrilled for it. And oh, we had a good question from Doug. Will this type of editor be making its way to other Lucky Duck games? And absolutely. And so actually, this is the second editor we have. We have a Chronicles of Crime editor, which is also accessible, and we have some resources for it. I'm going to be trying to revamp some of those resources soon,
Awesome.
just to give them new life and make them a little easier to digest. But yes, our hope is we have this beautiful niche in terms of this tabletop digital hybrid game that we have for a lot of our games. And like Destinies, a lot of them give room for folks to create content with them, like new and creative work out of the same components. And we want to give life to that where it's desired. And so, yes, is the short answer. And I can't say more about everything now, but there's a lot of fun things to come.
Awesome. Thank you. Joe is picturing Sisyphus for Rolling with Rock's campaign.
Joe, we got to get you at least to play this game. So,
Yes,
so you can
100%.
I want to stoke this creativity.
And Gary's saying, grab some D&D modules and create some totally non-copyright infringing similar scenarios using Destiny's components. I mean, as long as they're actually totally non-copyright infringing, we're all on board with that.
Yeah. I don't know how you'll replicate the QR codes, but without it being the same, but it's fine.
Oh, and Rock, we totally get the time constraint. I don't know. I don't understand how you stream as much as you do. He streams like 6 nights a week
My
already
goodness.
with a full-time job and 2 kids, and I don't
So
know
I'll
how
just
you
hop
do
on
it.
the stream and we'll walk you through the story
Yep,
builder. Bing, bang, boom. No.
yep,
And
yep.
it's
And then we'll jump into some Pokemon and you'll walk us through that,
yeah.
and he's good to go,
Sounds like a great night.
right? So Ferret Man says, this is such a wonderful idea. You talk about it being on apps and Steam. By apps, do you all mean like the iTunes Store, Google Play Store, etc.?
Okay. So the Destinies app is available on like the Play Store and an Apple Store and those kind of things to be played. And then we have Steam. The editor itself will be available through Steam. And so we're creating it as an add-on essentially to the Destinies app. And both you can get for free. You'll need the base game to play the game, so you still need the game. But it will be available easily through Steam is our goal. I cannot imagine simple functionality of an editor on your phone. You don't
No,
want it.
that would
Just
be
trust
tough.
me in that. You can wait till you get home to do your massive edits, but the story builder you can use Google Docs like as you go to flesh it out and do your story building on the road that way. But the editor will be available through Steam.
But then once you published your scenarios, they can be played in the app
Yes,
that's available on
absolutely. Like
iTunes,
like
Google Play
any other
Store, and
scenario.
Steam.
Yeah, the community editor, I can't even stress enough, it is creating a full-fledged Destiny scenario. That's what you're doing. It is a creative undertaking. And my
To
goal
say
is
the
to make
least.
that as simple as possible for you all. But it will not be like a lukewarm or weird or off graphic scenario in the app. It will look and feel the same as any other Destiny scenario you could play.
Yeah, I just had a similar experience recently, actually. I play Slay the Spire,
Yeah.
which is a video game, and
Yeah.
there's a just recently released community-built mod it's actually available completely separately from Slay the Spire as a separate download, not as a mod for the game, but now as a separate game that you can download for free on Steam called Downfall. That is like Slay the Spire played as if you were the boss and you're playing backwards through the game, and it's an awesome experience. Like, it is a completely Slay the Spire true to their theme cards. I mean, it feels like playing Slay the Spire.
That's really
It's
cool.
incredibly true to the experience, to the point where when I'm playing it, I feel like it must have been made by the creators of the game. It's stunning to me that it wasn't. And I'm that came to mind instantly when you were talking about
Yeah.
how the Destinies editor truly is about making actual Destinies content. Like,
Yeah.
you are writing content that will then be implemented in the app
Yes, and I
as
even
if
go
you are
through how to
playing a
format
game.
things to
Yeah,
make it look the same, like it will be done for you. And it will, yeah, it functions just the same. It's just your words,
exactly.
ideas.
So if you have a story idea in mind that you were like, I really wish that this, that like I played the first scenario in the Destinies world and I love the idea of this, but I could tell such a cool story in this setting. It's just not the story that this arc
Yeah.
told. Well,
And
now
that's
you can do
the
that.
cool bit of it is you can kind of take all of these pieces and run with it. You could make a full rock scenario based off an item that you like in the game. You can take a mini that shows up that you think is really cool and just kind of redefine its whole story.
I had so much
There's
fun
really
painting that one too. The feathers are
yes,
amazing.
I wanna paint these so badly.
We're gonna
Um,
do it. We're gonna make that
but I'm
happen.
gonna do it. But there's a lot of different points of inspiration you can have, or it can just be a destiny path that you think is cool, or it could be a joke that you want to make in the editor somewhere and that you run with it in full-fledged story. And I'm here to support those ideas as you have them. One person asked, about costs.
Yep.
Ferret Man asked if it would have any cost for the users. No, no, it doesn't. In fact, eventually we are also hoping to run some like contests for creation, so maybe some prize for a user. But at the moment,
Fantastic.
we don't have any announcements to that regard. But there's a lot of hope we have in terms of fleshing this out and making it a joy for folks who are excited about storytelling.
That's awesome. So yeah, we are. Yeah, it's completely free, and you do need to own or at least have access to a copy of the
Yeah.
game in order to create for it, because you really do need to have access to the pieces.
Yes.
But no, there's no cost to have access to the community editor to use or to publish through it. But we really are looking to build a community around this. I mean, we call it that for a reason. And we want to engage with you, and we want to give you a place in our Discord right now to engage with other people who are also creating using these tools, to give each other ideas, to help each other when you're stuck, and to reach out to us and to reach out to Carly when you need help, or if you just want to talk about what the community editor is capable of, because we don't want you out there just creating on your own in a vacuum. The idea of this is for us to all grow together.
Yep.
Panic Games started. He said, I'm still trying to get through all the content it already has, and yeah, there are a lot of scenarios. There's no doubt.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I just got
same.
access to one of the expansions that was just sent to me, even as I work on this. So I'll be right there playing alongside you.
I
One
haven't
person,
played through all of it yet either.
yeah. Well, one person asked me about not the dungeon thing, but a different interaction, and they're like, "Will you be able to do something like that?" And I was like, "I'm going to learn that right now. We'll see." It's good. It's good. I'm real cool, and I did. And so the beauty of the editor is, once you get the basic functionality done, it's actually fairly intuitive to use. There's a couple bits on the technical side of stuff you have to master. Um, but yeah, no, it is exciting just how many scenarios we could possibly end up with.
That's awesome, Panic. That's exactly what we're trying for here, is to give extra life really to this game, and to give the kind of longevity to it that that gives people a reason to keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
And we've accomplished that to some extent also with Chronicles of Crime, because in addition to all the DLC that we provide and all of the expansions and the standalone games, there's also a ton of community content. And that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
So Super Ushi asks, will there be a way to search or filter for good or thematically appropriate scenarios before downloading all possible scenarios? Will there be any form of quality management like a rating system? That is a great question.
That is a great question. So yes and
I'm going to
no.
switch this
In
back.
probably so you can actually see my face.
Yes, because otherwise you were
Well,
covered.
yeah, and we haven't, and if we need to hop back to the editor, we can.
Yeah, just let me know.
But yeah, so we are very cognizant of the fact that you do need to have a full scenario that is validated in the editor before it'll let you export the file. So we're not going to have any like piecemeal things in terms of quality. That's a big piece of quality control, is they can't have the errors or warnings in order to be able to upload it to our app. We care very much about having things that run properly. And so that will kind of be a catch-all for that before it's able to be published. In terms of good or appropriate, we do have community guidelines in terms of what's appropriate for submission. I do understand that just because I have a guideline does not mean everyone follows my guideline. And so we also do, especially for the community driven campaign apps, they'll be accessed separately. You'll basically have a folder for community scenarios, and people can put a description, like their general synopsis, like you see for the base scenarios, of what it's going to be. So you can get a sense of the flavor of their scenario. And then in terms of when you're in the app, at all times, there'll be a flag icon at the top, and the app will tell you this before you access a scenario. It'll say, hey, you're accessing a community scenario. There's a risk in doing so of being met with something that you might find objectionable, and here's exactly how to let us know so we can handle it. Our goal is to provide quality like management as well, and to be paying attention to and accessing the scenarios that are put into the app. But with that, we understand that there are only so many of us at so many hours of the night. And there's joy in making things immediately available, but it also means that that follow up might not happen immediately, but it will happen. And there's ways for you to communicate with us about that, should that be an issue. Given the spirit of the community and the amount of effort it takes to create a scenario to the point that it can be put into the app, I I doubt that we will be seeing many of those issues as folks engage with us as they flesh out their scenarios. But yeah, so it is something we're mindfully thinking about for sure in terms of making sure things are both appropriate and quality.
Thank you. And Douglas, I know that you've mentioned that we've already answered your question, but I think it's worth mentioning here anyway. He asked, how will you be able to see campaigns made by others and tell if you want to play their campaigns, like what their game is like? And although we answered the part of your question that was about tell if you want to play their campaigns, it's worth mentioning how you'll be able to find the content that other people have uploaded.
Yeah. So in the Destinies app, you'll essentially have a new component that's kind of accessing the community based content. It'll be very evidently labeled. And then it'll kind of look the same as our other scenarios in terms of being able to access them. And so it'll be kind of placed to the side, but also very, very intuitive and easy to find.
Great.
We will also, I will say, as people craft scenarios, I'm personally really jazzed about it. And that's something that I will be sharing both like in terms of the social media side of life and our Discord. I want to celebrate people who do that. This is a, like I said, a creative undertaking. Someone is putting in a lot of love to create their story and make content for everyone to enjoy. And that's something I intend to celebrate and promote as appropriate. And so folks are gonna know when there's new scenarios available, especially if you're if you want to know, even if you don't intend of being a part of the creator group. Our Discord is always a place that you can kind of find that news
And potentially promote to other creators and to
yeah
other people who are not
absolutely
necessarily making their own content, but who are engaged
yeah
with Destinies, are interested in playing other people's created content, even if they're not making it themselves.
hmm
Thank you, Rock.
yeah
He said, well done, sounds amazing. Looking forward to seeing more and trying it out. That's awesome. I'm excited to play the rock themed scenario. So Joe Sandow mentioned Steam Workshop content usually has ratings for things like Escape Simulator, where a lot of the content is created by players. So is that something that might be relevant to our content in the future?
As I think about it, I hope so, and I hope eventually so. I do not know enough about how it's going to exactly present into the app to know what is possible
Yeah.
there. And so I just don't want to make any assurances. I can't. I'm
Yep.
speaking to what I know right
No,
now.
I think you're right, Joe. He says the community content is inside the Destinies app, so not dependent on the Steam Workshop
Yeah,
system. And yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, we will be separate from their system, but we will also have our own monitoring and oversight
for sure.
that we're providing. So Gary Klein asks, can I use map tiles in the same scenario that are not connected continuously in art?
Absolutely. That is one of the things that we talk about in the app. It's not meant to be precise. Obviously, the map tiles that we have in the box are kind of designed to perfectly overlay and create this concise picture. But when I'm crafting a scenario, I'm going to want a river where I want a river, and it doesn't matter if it connects perfectly to the farm; it's next to the farm. And so, yes, there's not a continuity issue in that regard. You're going to tell people what tiles to put and where to put them, and that's part of the open-ended exploration and joy there. So
And Gary, I think Carly may have already answered your question, but he asks, could he use the map from the introductory werewolf scenario with tiles from the map that are connected through a tunnel?
yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes. And so, yeah, like I said, it won't line up perfectly, but it plays just fine. If you've played Destinies, you know folks are moving like tile to tile, and they have the points of interest. You will be able to guide and control the shape of the map and what tiles are where. It's not going to force you to pick a map set. You get to mix and match however you'd like. The one constraint being if you choose tiles from a different box. Like the base sets versus expansions will always be relevant.
Great. So do you want to show your guides and your I'll do a little bit of a walkthrough of the
Sure, I'm happy to show that. And so let me stop this sharing. One moment.
Mhm.
And
So in the meantime, I know that there were some comments from earlier that I couldn't get to because we were talking about other stuff. But
okay, we can hit those
Tuan
first.
asked about, do you have plans to do more kids games like Yummy Yummy Monster Tummy? Maybe something that a 4 or 5-year-old could get into the Lucky Duck world. Yes, absolutely. There will be more games in the Lucky Duck Kids line coming. We have one that's coming, should be coming this year. It's heading into the manufacturing process now-ish, so I should have something to announce pretty soon. And then there will definitely be more in that line. Those 2 games, Kids Chronicles and Yummy Yummy Monster Tummy, were definitely not all we have up our sleeves as far as kids games are concerned. And Jamie Robertson said, "I can't wait for it to come to my country. Sounds amazing." And we have been actively publishing and selling Destinies in multiple languages. So we will. I don't know where you are, Jamie, but I hope that we get it to you soon. Joe says, "I'm looking at some Destinies videos by Maple University and watch it played to get an idea of what it's like." Those are great choices, Joe. They have both done a great job of covering
And
Destinies.
as you get a sense of Destinies, you'll also, like we mentioned earlier, get kind of a baby sense of some of the elements of Dark Quarter too, in terms of like the skills and some of the elements that are in play. So lots of cool stuff there.
Awesome. Are you ready for?
I am. I can walk people through a little bit. So this is a little bit of the story builder. It is a beautiful Excel sheet. But no, it actually does a lot more than you'd think. So I'm gonna pause for a second before I scroll through it all, because when I came to the editor, so I did not create the editor. I call it my baby, but I did not. We have a beautiful software development team that's been making Destinies and using an editor far before I ever walked in here a month ago. But it was largely just a Word document that kind of walked you through what you needed for this story. And so instead, I kind of broke down a lot of those concepts and let you actually kind of actively list them out with examples provided. So
before we dive too much further into this, there were a couple of questions here.
let's hit 'em.
First,
Yeah.
David Lamprecht asked about using the audio.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
there a library that you can choose from?
Yeah. So of course we just took down the editor. So, but for each of the map tiles you'll be actually able to, as well, in any interaction as well, because different points of interest that you go to, you'll be able to set main audio as well as like an ambient audio. So that's just at like 60% of the level is the main one. You could leave those blank. Or situationally leave them blank for a very creepy and silent feel. But you will have access to an abundance of audio to basically give life to your scenario. We
That's
do genuinely give you the tools to make this feel just like any other Destiny scenario would.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Rolling with Rock suggests, since there's already a huntsman and a noble, maybe a Blood on the Clock Tower scenario.
I will say, so when it comes to the characters, you can actually, and even the minis and other points of interest, you can flesh this out to be whatever you want it to be. You're not limited to these character cards, especially this is actually where you can be most creative because you'll provide people with brand new character cards. But yes, make me a demon based Blood on the Clock Tower scenario. I will be a happy person. There's even a witch too. A witch is also
I might need more on this because I have never played Blood on the Clock Tower.
Vince already asked me to bring it to Lucky Duck Con, so I will.
Okay. Well, then I'm looking forward to it.
I'll be teaching you all.
I look forward to it. That sounds like the perfect game for Lucky Duck Con.
And I love storytelling it, so it'll
awesome.
be really, really joyful to watch you all lie to each other.
I can't wait. And Joe Sandow also asked, I can take this one. Does Destinies have secret information per player, like a hand of cards? You have one kind of major secret, which is your destiny. Actually, 2 destinies that are on the back of your card. and you are trying to achieve one of those, and that's how you win the game. You can achieve either of them in order to win, and you don't have to commit to one of them when you start the game. Although you kind of have to hard commit to one or the other of them at some point
At some
during
point.
during the game. You'll never have to like say to the app like I am choosing this one, but if you don't pick one or the other, you can easily get stuck with
Yeah.
not being able to finish either of them.
I will
But
say
but
also
that's really the only secret.
I was gonna
Like
say there's a
everything else.
little more potential there for secret in terms of the backgrounds you give characters. So backgrounds are also on your character card and are not public information. So if you, I don't want to spoil a first scenario if you haven't played it yet, but in the first scenario, you're given background to what you want and what you know, but the other characters have different backgrounds and know more about certain things than you do. So there is potential there for a surprise in terms of narrative development for yourself or someone else along the way, because you see pieces of things and other people know probably more about that than you do. You see your own trajectory, so there is a little bit of a room for I know something you don't know, but not necessarily changing the full dynamic of the game.
So the way that that could play out would be you have this card like you were showing that has a very little bit of narrative on the back that you read at the beginning of the scenario, and you have access to it throughout the scenario, and it's face down in front of you, and it's really the only hidden information throughout. Everything else that is presented in the app is shared information among all players. All the items that you acquire, everything is face up shared information. And what that means is if I go to a point of interest and interact with a person and they tell me something, everyone knows that thing. Everyone finds that thing out when I do. But if I know something about that person that no one else knows, then they may have just told me something that they didn't tell you by implication, which is what
Yeah.
Carly is getting at there. Uh,
And I will say with the editor, there is room for more secrets if you want them. We can set up different interactions and and not really like secrets as much as like when you have the interactions, it will be public knowledge. But there's more wiggle room for things to be personalized to different characters. You can make dialogues that only show up for a certain person, in different like scenarios, or if you've achieved something. So maybe if in the beginning and you could present this to someone if you want, and maybe this is too much for a background, but you could say, hey, you know that this is here, and if you use this works. And so that could be something that you have over someone else and maybe provide things differently. That isn't necessarily traditional to a Destiny scenario, but it's definitely doable.
yep.
So
So, Joe, it's even less really than that because it's not 3 cards that each player sees. It's actually just 1 card that each player sees at the beginning of the game. So
you,
there are 3 of these cards that Carly's showing,
mhm.
and they're for 3 players. So you would choose from the front that Carly showed already,
Mhm.
and those would be distributed 1 to each player, and then you would each read the back. And what's
So
on the
this is your
back would be
character, and that's
right, exactly. I do actually think that it would be compatible with Twitch streaming as long as one person is streaming the board and the app and has all the cards, but they would also have to manage the boards and cards of the other players unless they also have the boards and cards available to them. Like if everybody has a copy of the game, I think it's doable with the person who's kind of running it, handling all of the scanning of items and everything that's happening, and just having the other people say, I'm doing this thing. And then whoever's running the game scans. Because otherwise, trying to
yeah.
manage multiple people, trying to keep apps in sync, I wouldn't try to do that. You only ever with any Lucky Duck game, you only ever need one copy of the app running. I think that's kind of a standard that we set with our apps is you only need one device. You only need the app running on one device. One person has like the phone or the tablet, and if you want other people to read out loud from it, you can pass it around. But there's no there's no need to connect devices or have multiple people interacting with multiple
Yeah.
apps.
It definitely you can play together apart for sure.
Yes, it could be done. Okay, a couple other questions, and then we'll jump back really quickly. Oh, so Joe had said I wouldn't expect multiple players to have the game for a stream, which, yeah, it would definitely be easier with people who do have it, but not impossible if they don't. Will it be possible to set up your scenario purely privately and implement family members or friends in the game for a very personal round?
Yes. So we actually encourage you to set it as private from the start, and play test it as much as you like. That would make us very happy. There's a lot of things you might want to alter and for play testing purposes, but it also might just be because you want to play a private game with something that you've crafted with your friends. You have the choice when you upload it to our website to set it as private or public, and that's not a temporary status. That's purely up to you. So you could just do a big trolley game for your family if you wanted to and never make it public. And just please tell me about it if you do. Like, please, please, please tell me about it if you do.
Post about it in the Discord, please.
Yeah, it's all the characters are actually just your family members.
That's amazing.
And all of their destinies are just like slight it now. I'm speaking for you. But yes, yes, you will definitely be able to upload it privately, and you do not have to do so publicly. Though we encourage you to if you feel comfortable and confident.
Gary asks if the editors will support 4 players.
So you are limited to the components of your box, which give you 3. And so the editor is designed in a way it is designed to support 3 players and their destinies and narratives. You also have overlapping destiny paths as kind of an integral part of destinies. What I mean by that is 2 characters will always kind of be going after the same things. It might be for a different reason. So maybe we both need 3 people to help us for one of our paths, but we need them to help us with different things, but they only have so much time and energy and can only help one person, whoever kind of meets their needs faster. So you're competing in different ways. So the first character will always be competing kind of with this one on one path and this one on the other. And it's kind of a big circle in that regard. And so, yeah, the short answer is it's for 3, up to 3 people. It will not support 4.
But if you're looking for a co-op experience for up to 4 players, you should check out our upcoming Kickstarter for the Dark Quarter. I can't figure out how to point in a mirror on a mirror.
I know.
My screen. I'm like, how does this
pushing it off screen?
Where's my finger?
Yeah.
The Dark Quarter on April 12th on Kickstarter will be using a very similar system, not identical, but similar system to Destinies. Plays up to 4. It's campaign based. You gain XP and gain in abilities over the course of the campaign, not just over individual sessions. And it plays cooperatively up to 4 players. Great troll level, 10 characters named Bob, and you have to figure out the right Bob. Cute.
I love it. It's also just a social deduction game. All of these are just social deduction games. I love this energy.
Turns out Destinies all along was actually an RPG like Trader. There's a Trader mechanic embedded in the whole game. It's actually a hidden social deduction game.
I'm the demon. Good luck, everybody.
So here's what we were talking about before.
Here's the basic Destiny story editor file. I'm actually going to go back to the original page. So in this editor, it really is just breaking down all the things you'll need before you get to the editor itself. So some of it is just this page is very simple. I just want folks to start to digest and think about what is the overarching story of the world that your players inhabit. Where does it take place? What are some key locations? Maybe the tile set or mix of tiles that you're going to use. And are there any key non-player characters crucial to the plot? Do we have a big beast that's coming up towards the end? What is your general overview of this world that the players will be a part of? After that, people get to break down their characters and make this character card, essentially mock-up. So for each of them, let me zoom in a little bit for you guys. Is that a little better?
Yeah.
So you can see here that you have place to basically jot down some character backgrounds thing. And as well as over here, I have an example kind of pulled from one of the old Destiny cards. It's a noble who was branded as a coward because all of his brothers were off fighting. And it kind of hits on both of his Destiny paths, kind of the overview, which will be the 2 different things that he could accomplish and how he's going to get there. If you look over here, it'll essentially show you exactly what that looks like turned into the card. itself. So if you need that reference point, and then here you'll actually input it for yourself. And you'll see that overlapping colors are those overlapping competing destiny paths. And so they're shared in that regard. You flesh it out for the 3 characters. You get to do your character starting stats because I guess for folks who haven't played Destinies, you have your 3 stats, major stats in intelligence, a dexterity, and power, and these can change over time. So a noble may be better at some, and a witch better at others, and a huntsman probably a little stronger than both of them, or might have the potentials to be. You have skill markers that mark these things that can move, and how many you have also limit how possibly strong you can be and how many successes you can get. And so here it not only goes over guidance on how we determine what we think people should have in any given game. That's kind of the first chunk, is kind of those directions and kind of pointers and tips and tricks. But then you'll be able to just kind of jot these down. Later, you'll go directly into the editor and it'll be like, hey, what are your character stats? And so this is a way you can kind of digest a little bit about what they should be and kind of get our guidance from that before the editor's like, pick them. Because in the editor, you could have every skill marker full if you want to, but that wouldn't make for an interesting game, nor do you have the pieces to support it. And so this kind of just preps your brain in terms of the things you need to think about before you touch the editor. The other pieces of it are outlining all of the quests, and they will ultimately lead to and how to handle more complex paths, how many numbers of quests should people have to do. So if a path is about hunting down people, how many should they do roughly? And all of those things we kind of give you guidance on here and help you start to just get the basics on. You don't need to know every event and every interaction, but the basics. Jotting down, preparing for the finales for each characters, preparing all of the points of interest that will be on your map. And really that's the basics that you need just before you touch the editor. And the editor, you'll bring everything to life.
So the idea behind this document is to give you a feeling and a guide for the things that you need to think about when you're really trying to put your story together in terms of structure. So you may already have a story that you want to tell, but this is really kind of how you tie that story to the structure of the editor, where the editor won't necessarily directly give you the level of guidance that you might need.
It won't at all. You have to know kind of where you're going in the editor and what you're going to put where. But what does give you that guidance is I've made another document that's literally, how do you take this story builder and, I'm hitting a microphone, and put it directly into the editor. And so when you're going through that guidance of how to use the editor, it'll say, hey, if you've done this over here, this is where you use that. It'll say, go to the player characters tab. This is where you're going to really flesh out those ideas that you had. And it gives you kind of a baseline start so that you are ready to hit the editor. Because otherwise learning the editor could be really frustrating because maybe you haven't outlined every point of interest that you want, or you're not sure exactly where something's headed. That's okay. This kind of mapping will kind of get you started here. And then when you hit the editor, you'll know what you can go back to, and you can kind of use the story builder as like a rough checklist to get you ready for those things. And so it's a work in progress. And the editor guide, again, helps, but they complement each other really well. It doesn't require the story builder, but the story builder will put you in a much more comfortable place when you're approaching that editor.
That's great. Gary asks, will there be any templates available if we don't want to work from scratch?
So the story builder and the guide that I give you kind of provide you those templates, but there will also be an example scenario, not a full fleshed out one, not like a full one that you'd see in Destinies, available in the Steam application that you can kind of walk through if you're more of a hands-on person. But also, so for instance, let me show you something else really fast.
I love the sound effects. I'm usually the one making those, so it always makes me happy when I hear other people doing it.
Yeah. I actually want to, do I have this up right now? I don't have it up right now, but I'm going to talk to you about it really fast. So in my guide that takes the story builder and turns it into this and tells you about how to implement it into the editor, there's a whole section I have that goes over the presets into the editor. We are nice to you. We don't expect you to learn how to code out everything. So a lot of times when you're adding events in the editor, so let's say you're adding like a scan test, there's a preset that you just say, add scan test. I talk to you a little bit about in the guide what you should input for certain features when and how, and what makes sense for the different scenarios that you're trying to create. But most of those have presets in the editor themselves. So you definitely will have that example scenario to pull back from, to be like, how do I do this like looping finale? I just want to see someone else do it really fast. But my guide and the presets will really get you started. We're not we've made Destinies. We don't need you to make Destinies.
Well
We
said.
just want you to enter your new content into it, and we've
Well
given you a
said.
tool that can do that.
Hi, Rich. Rick, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here. Rick is a terrific source of TikTok content for video games. He's everywhere in the board. And not sorry, my brain is apparently nowhere right now. Rick is a great source for board game TikTok content, and he is everywhere in the board game TikTok world. If you're looking for him, and you don't know who to look for the guy that you would recognize as Tabletop Santa. You can't miss him. So were you looking for something that you were going to share on the screen?
Oh, yeah, I just described it, but I will give me 2 seconds. I'm so
It
sorry.
is all good. I'm actually going to go back really quick and grab that Discord link again,
Oh yeah.
in case anybody who is here now would like to join. And I think I may have gone too far. But yeah, we have a Discord. It's not just for people who are interested in joining or in it's not just for people who want to get involved with this with the community editor. It is also for anybody who's interested in. That's not really that useful, is it? For anybody who's interested in Lucky Duck Games content. Yeah, I can't copy and paste it from there. I have it somewhere else. Yes, if you're interested in Lucky Duck Games content, if you just want to talk to other people who play our games, or if you want to get involved with the creator community, this is a great place to do it. We are set up now so that you can go into the choose your role channel and assign yourself the creator role, and that will give you everything you need to participate in the creator channel within the Discord. It gave me an error for Facebook, but it also says that it sent it to Facebook. Very confusing. You're welcome, Rick. And sorry for getting that wrong, like completely wrong the first time around. So in the meantime, so Joe was asking if I know if more Crime Zoom scenarios are coming to Board Game Arena. I don't actually. You know, it's funny when Amanda Panda sent me that link yesterday, it was actually the first time that I knew, like the first time I learned that we had a Crime Zoom scenario on the Board Game Arena. So I was not actually aware that that was even there. So I don't know if there will be more of those there. Rick says he is the voice behind the board game space on TikTok. If there's publisher on TikTok, I probably handle their channels, and that's not. He's not wrong. We are going to be working with Rick to be launching a Lucky Duck Games TikTok very soon.
I'm thrilled for it.
I'm super excited. So you looked like you were ready to.
Oh yeah, I can show you really fast. I was hoping to do it in the editor, but it's going to do a couple additional pop-ups that just won't let me. So I'm just going to show you here that on the top, there's one little arrow that's kind of adding an event, a generic event that you can kind of set conditions to and do different things. Next to it with the little red dot is presets. So when it comes to explore, like all of those commands that flip all your tiles, and some of them are foggy and they all have like vague descriptions and all those things, that will just kind of trigger kind of the baseline. And then you have to be like this tile, and you've already set them up because of the story builder and guide of what they're going to be and say. Here, it just kind of shows you on this screen what it'll look like to basically do a pre-implemented test. So if you're doing one of those skill checks, where it says test 0, 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, that first one, it's going to give you preset options for if you want the test, like one result if it's a 0 to 2, and then a 3 plus. And then on the next window, it'll just be like, what do you want the dialogue to be? What do you want it to happen? And so we make it as functional as possible for some of those core things that you do. Scan test gives you the option of doing a test or scan, and implements both processes for you at once. We're not asking you to create destinies. There will be all of these things formatted for you and available whenever you're in the editor, though, like I said, you will have access to an example scenario to kind of get a sense for how they use things and where and why. You'll also have the Discord, which I will be there to walk you through if you're like, Carly, I just don't get this, or how do I make this really complex and cool thing happen? I will tell you.
Carly, where do I start? How do I use the Destinies editor to fix all my problems?
Yeah, all of your problems. It's a therapeutic tool now, guys. And it's free.
So you had started to show us the actual editor
Yes.
earlier. Do you want to show a little bit about how that works? Or
Sure.
have you covered most of what you wanted to show?
I think I covered a good bit of it, but I'm happy to show more if folks want to see more. It is a very, very cool bit. I'm seeing if I can pull it up okay. Struggling to get it back up. Hold on one second. Sorry.
While we wait, no, it's all good. While you work on that, folks in chat, are people who are in chat mostly already familiar with Destinies? We already know that we were talking a little bit with Joe about some of the background of the game for folks who are not as familiar with Destinies, but I'm interested to know if there are other people who are less familiar with the game, or if most people who are here, there we go, are already pretty well versed in the Destinies universe. And now we've got the editor. So this is what you will, this is presumably what you will actually interact with when you open the Steam interface.
Yeah, so you'll see a big blank in the center here where there are actual map tiles. But what's really, I mean, I can just show you some of the basic functionality is so simple to use. So for instance, adding an additional map tile is just right up here. And you'll be able to see it'll kind of appear down here under all your map tiles. You can click it. It won't show up until you define it. And so editor name is always for you. I could just say Brit. Do we already have bridge? We already have bridge. I was going to do bridge to river. Let's do forest. Game ID will be the tile that it is, which you would presumably kind of flesh out your map before you get here. Picking a tile, 18, it would match the one that you picked. And you can start to position it on the board. So you basically use X and Z more or less to slide it over. Again, this is on the full guide. That's the forest that I chose for you all. A wrecked, burning, embered home. And you can kind of move it around to position where you want it on the board and where it'll be. You can do visible if it's going to be there from the beginning. If it's still not present yet, it'll be hidden, or fog of war side up, which is kind of that foggy side you see when you're next to something and kind of can make sense of it. And then you'll have a description and an unexplored description. So that goes through just your basics of what you can see before you explore it, and then once you see when you get there. And that can change too over time. You can preset that. Other things up here, this will add a point of interest. So one of those things that you can explore on them. And then those will all appear on the side here. You'll have your players, your dialogues, which are those interactions you can have, points of interest and map tiles. And you can kind of go into any of them and define them a little more. I'm happy to show you anything you'd like to see or have questions about. But it's all fairly intuitive. when it gets down to it, what takes the most time is making all of those events happen. It's if this happens, then now this happens, or now characters have done this already, and now so they don't get this. The big example we have in the guide so far is like you go to a boat, and the first time someone goes there, a rabbit is spooked and then runs away. You don't want that to happen every time you go to that event. You want the world to be ever changing and evolving. So I show you how to make those things temporary and conditional. And once you get it, like it flows really naturally, but I walk you through all those processes.
And one of the really neat things that happens in, or that can happen in some of the earlier scenarios in the base game is like the interaction that you just described is something that happens the first time a player visits the boat. But you can also have interactions where maybe multiple players visit a wolf den, but the second player who visits it kills the wolves. So the first player visited and left and ran away and didn't kill the wolves. So when the second player got there, the wolves were still there, but they killed them. Now, when the third player gets there, the wolves are dead.
Or gone or dead.
Right?
Yeah,
Or gone.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so the big thing, and I guess my big goal in this is a lot of that takes some very mild level of technical skill. And for some people that will be easy. They'll read the guide and they'll digest it and they'll be like, great. And for other people, I hold your hand through how to make that happen. And that's also why we have community support to help you. But those things aren't very hard. What ends up happening is you make variables in the editor. So you see there's variables editor here and then events editor here. You'll make variables in the editor and you define what those are to just track those things. So I usually say to make them like very pinpointy, good references for you. So for in the case of the sleepy rabbit, we just made an event called event.sleepyrabbit variable that just tracked whether that happened yet, or it sets to trigger the second time someone comes instead, because you can add numbers to it. And so then you would go ahead and make an event with that variable to say, second time, that's when that rabbit's running. And that's when players see that. So it isn't really too difficult to do. It's just a couple of tech bits so that the editor can track whether it's happened or not.
I can speak from my own not Destinies coding like experience, but other variable setting experiences that naming your variables, things that you will be able to remember what they are, is super important.
If you read my guide you will make a variable for a lot of different things. And every single time you do in my guide, I will yell at you about what to specifically name it. And you can ignore me as much as you'd like,
but you will regret
it. It's a good idea. Yeah. It's just a vague threat over here about naming variables.
Someday in the future, you'll look back at variable 123A and you'll think, Carley was right.
Well, no, and because in Destinies, when people get items, for those who don't know, a lot of times they'll go to like a market and we'll set up a trade stack so that right when they go there, we're like, oh, all of these items are here. If you ever want to trade for them, they're here and they'll be on the side of the table. So you can know that you want to go there, but also know that it's still available. And so you have to set up the trade stack variable because you don't want to yell at players every single time that they go to a location to set up the trade stack. So you need to like have it only happen the first time. But I say to name it trade stack and I'm like, just please do it. Like don't get weird. Like you might want to change the items in it eventually. Like just name it trade stack. Like don't get crazy here.
Because you don't want to wonder which one of these things was the trade stack sometime down the line when you can't remember what you called it.
I'm just going to start inserting my face looking disapprovingly at folks for everyone who doesn't do it. I wish we could make that a part of the editor. Just like, really? That's what you went with? No. But
I don't think I can put it in the editor, but we can make it a Twitch emoji and we can make it a Discord emoji. Disapproving Carley. It's coming. It's the thing. This is definitely going to be a thing.
Joe said he can't. He looks forward to submitting a story and having it rejected for using it.
Actually, it won't be rejected.
I will say all of the variables and all of your wherever it says editor name, there's usually editor name and then name. It's all for your reference. So like I will never see it. I will never know. And you can know and openly mock me with it later. I relish in it. It just sounds like a lot more time spent editing for you. But yeah, you do you. That seems like a very hard thing to track to me about another written document.
Oh, that's terrific.
I don't think
Oh, and he's definitely not lying.
A scowling Carly mini and character in the editor.
I mean, that definitely sounds like something we really need.
It's okay. Yeah. We'll work on it. There'll be a full playable Carly expansion in time.
The problem is that no one has ever seen Carly scowl.
Have I I can't prove you wrong. I feel like I'm a
She's like, I
very
can't do it. I can't do
I
it.
feel like I'm a very smiley person.
You are. You definitely are.
Yeah, but no, we can do
That's
a
not a
full
scowl.
Lucky Duck cast expansion.
That would
Just
be amazing.
of the staff.
Yes.
Please.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
We have a very eclectic staff. We have a very eclectic staff, a cast
Yeah.
of characters on our staff. We could make a very interesting Destinies story
Scenario.
ourselves.
Yeah. I look forward to it. But yeah, but that's the editor that I'm super excited about.
Joe says, I think we could find a frame of a scowl from this stream when failing to name variables
Yeah,
came up.
at least a cartoonish one of me just like, I don't know. Was that a scowl? Does it count?
It was a very smiley scowl.
Yeah.
It's as good as you're gonna get, Joe.
It's probably what I'm gonna get. Round of applause. Yeah. Oh man.
Good scowl. Good scowl.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so have you covered what we want to talk about for
I feel like
the
we've
content of
covered the
editor?
most of it. I'm very excited. I will just remind folks that for backers, it'll probably be out sometime this week. We'll have an announcement. We'll do like an update for backers
Fantastic.
with access a little early to our editor, and for others, it'll be out early to mid-April. And I'm very, very excited for the community support. But for now, if you want more information or just to connect or in any anticipatory way, it's the Discord that you want to hit up for sure. The Lucky Duck Discord.
Absolutely. And we also have our Facebook page, Lucky Duck Facebook page. We have the Lucky Duck or the Dark Quarter Facebook page. Now I really can't see what I'm pointing at because I'm in this tiny square off in the corner of the like it's over here somewhere. We have a Dark Quarter Facebook page. I can put links to both of those in chat. But especially if you're interested in really engaging with the community and really engaging with the creator community, the place you want to be for sure is on our Discord.
Sure.
I am jumping over to our Facebook page so I can grab those links for all of you. Here is Facebook page. This is our main Lucky Duck Facebook page. And then I will also send you the Dark Quarter group. So for anyone who wasn't here earlier, the Dark Quarter is our upcoming Kickstarter. It's launching on April 12th. It is a cooperative adventure for up to 4 players. We're making Lucky Duck is making it in conjunction with Van Ryder Games, and it uses a similar stat system and dice rolling system to Destinies. It's not the same system. It has some distinct differences, but it is a very different kind of adventure. It's set in a dark version of New Orleans, and it is a cooperative campaign adventure where you are gaining experience, you're learning new abilities, and something that we didn't touch on actually that I meant to mention earlier is that you're also each playing an individual character, and although it is a cooperative adventure, each character has their own backstory and something to learn about them that is unique and separate from each other player, and that you can advance your own your backstory, and you can follow those threads and gain experience specific to your character, and also make decisions that affect the future interactions of your character, either later in the current scenario or in future scenarios, or perhaps the interactions of other characters based on the decisions that you make. So you may be faced with a choice between taking revenge or being forgiving, and that decision might determine whether a character that you make that decision about is around to interact with in a future scenario, and that could affect everyone. So those are the kinds of interactions that you can look forward to in the Dark Quarter.
I'm so
Hi, Mark.
excited.
Thanks for joining
Hello.
us. I am grabbing that link for you guys right now. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover for the
I
community?
think my overarching list is covered. I really just wanted to preview the editor and some of the exciting stuff we have to come for it. Yeah, I'm just very, very jazzed for what's to come.
Me too. Here is, there is a better link, but this is what I've got right now. This is a link to the Dark Quarter Facebook group, and we would love to have you there. It's a great place to find out new information about what's upcoming for the campaign, but obviously the best way to make sure that you are notified when the campaign goes live is to go to luckyduckgames.com/the dark quarter, which will take you to the Kickstarter page to be notified when we go live. And I will put that in chat as well.
And I do believe if you sign up for, there's a giveaway going on for a copy of the Dark Quarter if you sign up for the Kickstarter notifications. There's more info about that on Facebook. I think there's 2 things you have to do, and I'm not cool enough to list them right now. But you could also win a copy of the Dark Quarter.
That is right. So I actually just posted a link to the Lucky Duck page that will redirect you
and it'll be
straight
right
to
up there.
But the giveaway is actually on a different, like I can also post a link to that if you give me just a second.
Sweet.
In the meantime, Joe asked how many developers are working on the app and editor, if that's public information. I don't know if that's public information.
I don't know if that's public information. I also don't know if I know the exact count to make it public either. Yeah. I don't know. Genuinely and truly.
That's a
I know
very
our
fair
team,
answer.
but yeah. So
here, this is the link to giveaway that Carly was just talking about. So you can actually follow this link, the second one that I just posted, then you can potentially win a pledge for the Dark Quarter as part of your follow for the campaign. Joe says, if you don't know the exact number, then it's more than 4. You don't know how well we can count.
bad at math. No, it's also just a matter of who's working on what now versus in the past and all of those things. We have a lovely software team, and I just could genuinely not tell you what's on all of their plates because there's a lot of things on all of their plates at any given time.
Yep, we have other games that we have already published that we still support through our app team. We have games that we haven't published yet that our app team is already working on. So, yep, that's a really good point. That even with the size of the team, it's hard for us to know for sure exactly how many are assigned to this particular project at the moment.
Yeah. I work adjacent to them. I am not them.
And also, although Carly and I and 2 other Lucky Duck employees are based in the US, pretty much the entire dev team is in Poland.
Yeah.
So we are not physically adjacent to them.
Yeah.
We are globally adjacent to them. But we are not physically adjacent to them.
Yes, and so I do not watch them do work and know exactly who's doing what at any given time. I wake up and their days, it's rapping. But anyway,
you and me both.
Yeah. Oh, you more than I.
Yes, very much so. I have like maybe a 2-hour overlap if I get up early in the morning with the end of their day.
Yeah.
But I think what I've been told is that Pacific time, which is my time zone for those of you who don't know, is like the worst time zone to be in for working with people anywhere else in the world right now. Like it's just like the hardest time zone to coordinate with time, like timing wise. And I can kind of see that. Like it's definitely it's tough.
Yeah.
It's like the end of the day for almost everyone when I'm waking up. So,
Yeah.
but yes, we are on the same planet, Joe. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to see each other within the year.
I really hope so. And Douglas says, amazing stream, guys. Thanks for all the wonderful information and
Ooh.
very excited to get my hands on the editor. We're excited for you to get your hands on the editor and definitely excited to have you as part of this community. If you haven't already joined the Discord, please jump in there because we really do want to have you in there to talk to us about what you're doing and let us
Yeah.
know everything that you're working on.
And it's great for obviously the community editor and getting involved that way, but it's also just great for keeping up with other Lucky Duck stuff as well. It is
Yeah,
not just a community editor hub. That will be a channel that you can choose to be a part of if you wish to, but there's going to be a lot of other things going on there. So
exactly. And with that, I think
we're
we
ready to
can
wrap up.
probably wrap things up. I do want to see if anybody, Brothers Murph are live. Maybe we raid into them. We've got 12 people on the Twitch channel.
Woo!
So for those of you who are not watching on Twitch, we're going to raid on Twitch. So the folks on Twitch are going to be taken into another channel. Everybody else we're just going to end the stream, but we don't want to end the stream before that raid has happened. So this might be, we're just going to chat for a couple of minutes here while I get that set up. And then we will just kind of quietly say goodbye. But until then, this might be a little awkward. I just don't want to. I don't want anybody who's watching on another channel to be confused about what's going on. So, give me one moment here while I get this set up. Joe says you can click to raid faster. I'm not actually sure if I see the way to do that. I believe you. Okay. I'll do it like that. All right. We will be raiding very soon. In the meantime, thank you to everybody for joining us for this. This was a lot of fun for me, and I'm assuming that yeah, I had a really good time getting to talk about all of this and
Me
getting to
too.
share the upcoming excitement. And
I'm very excited to come back and play some games.
yeah, I'm excited too. And we'll definitely we'll play some of our games. We will play some games with chat if people are excited to do that. And yeah, we just in the time that it took us to plan this, Carly and I have already come up with a list of games that we want to play on stream together. So that will definitely be happening. And on that note, Joe, I found the raid now button, so I will be clicking that and we'll see everybody soon.
Bye.
Bye.